all that with the
Yeah.
MMT definition.
Yeah. By the way, thought that I had because of the Morpheus, the More 20 funding, the new paradigm of funding projects, right?
Uh huh.
Um, I was thinking in the world of Bitcoin, this could totally be done with something like Mineral and MNER tokens. Because in Bitcoin, there's no staking, but there's mining rewards.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. So that's a utility for these tokens. They could be used to implement this funding strategy.
I'm sorry, I'm half listening, but absolutely, hell yes.
The only problem is that these still way too early for this stuff to have any reputation at all. Merlin chain and anything on it. It's too early. Versus Ethereum staking, it's been around for a few years.
Okay, sharing this on Telegram. Sharing it on Tweaker.
Damn.
Damn what?
The Cuban coffee is always so sweet. Even when I tell them not too sweet, just a tiny little bit of sugar. And this is probably a tiny little bit of sugar. And still, I mean, by their standards.
Right.
But
So you
some,
only want 2 tablespoons, not 4. And your coffee this big.
you want 4 tablespoons of coffee with your mountain of sugar.
That's right. That's right. All
Um,
right,
yeah.
Nima, we're live.
Oh,
I sent the links out to everyone, everywhere. We got looks like 3 people watching so far, and
wow.
we're gonna
That's like, that makes you, me, and Mystery Man or Woman.
talk. Well, I don't contribute to the 3. I don't have one of the websites open. I don't know if you do.
Oh, okay. I just got an update from YouTube. Watch live now.
Very good. Good. So this is Dylan Moore and Nima Majur of Irita TV, and we're going to be talking some Bitcoin, some gold, and maybe get into a little bit of why the economy doesn't work the way anybody seems to say it works. And of course, we know. Find out the information here. Nima, Zero Hedge.
Yeah.
Let me load it up here. So let's do screen share. Actually, no. You can you load it up? We should do better with you manning the share screen.
Yeah, I just have
Yeah,
to
yeah.
find.
I'll reset it to you here.
It's been a minute. Okay.
So we're loading up a Zero Hedge, not just article, but I didn't even realize Zero Hedge has its own show, like video show, and they had all sorts of guys on the gold versus Bitcoin side of things. Peter Schiff's on here too. I guess debating whether or not gold or Bitcoin is better. Yeah, Friday night Zero Hedge debate explored which is the superior asset, gold or Bitcoin. And we're not taking a side here, right? I mean, what
Right.
like Nima
Right.
said,
Yeah. Because as soon as I
they're
saw
both good.
this, yeah,
Yeah,
we haven't even watched this video yet. I don't know if you've watched it. I haven't watched it.
I haven't. No.
Yeah, on purpose. Because if anything, I want to just comment on the go. So it's investor Peter Schiff together with Nouriel Rubini. So they are both on one side. I don't think they ever agree on anything. Um, Ooh, Eric Voorhees. How cool is this? So they're debating with Eric Voorhees and Anthony Scaramucci. Why do I say Eric Voorhees? How cool is that? Because well, we've been we've been shilling the Morpheus AI project, even though we're not shilling it at all. We're just super excited about it. But we've been talking a lot about Morpheus AI, and Eric Voorhees is one of the main contributors, together with David Johnson, in the Morpheus AI project. So that's so amazing to me because Morpheus AI is not a Bitcoin project right now, at least launched on Ethereum, Arbitrum. Eric Voorhees hugely into it, and yet he will sit down and have a Bitcoin, a pro Bitcoin debate. And I think a lot of people need to understand that there's no real. Oh, well, once in a while you hear people. Michael Saylor recently came out and said Bitcoin is the only game in town. All the other ones are probably going to go away. By the way, they're registered securities. LOL. SEC shut them down. Which is totally stupid. Almost taunting the community and unleashing the authorities on them like rabid dogs, and then LOLing at that. So the there's no in my opinion there's no okay, Bitcoin is the only game in town, all the other ones are going to go away. I've never said that. I love Bitcoin. I think it's great. I think it's the greatest crypto. There are others that will have their place, like Ethereum, like probably XRP too. XRP is probably the most trashed crypto coin of all of them, and that's why I like them. Probably why I like them a lot, because they are an innovation as opposed to a copy of Bitcoin with some tweaks. Ethereum, I wouldn't call a copy of Bitcoin with some tweaks, but actually, kind of it is. Um, versus Ripple, XRP really came up with a new innovative system. So whatever project you're looking to do, you have all these tools at your disposal. You have Bitcoin, you have Ethereum, you have XRP, you have Monero, and whatever works for your project, that's great. And whatever works for you as a person to store your funds, that's also great. And we're already, wow, we have like so many comments already. We have
No,
to.
yeah, it's Jesus. Uh, I guess he's letting you know that crypto's a lost cause.
Right. Crypto's a
Sorry,
lost
guys.
cause. Sorry, guys. Also, the government is what recognizes my property as private property. Who recognizes two-party money as what is private property?
Well, go to the top comment. I'm not sure what Jesus here means about two-party money.
Oh, I think the problem with money, with only two parties, is it can lead to violence from the beginning. You could get a Hatfield and you get a Hatfield and McCoy situations. Unlike three-party money, coercion can be enough. Just my thought. Also, the government is what recognizes my property as private property. Who recognizes two-party money as what is private property? What is? I don't know what two-party money and
Yeah,
three-party money.
explain what two-party money is. We'll come back to you,
Crypto,
Jesus.
yeah, crypto's a lost cause. Sorry, guys. Ah, shucks. Okay, well, I guess we can pack it up and go home.
Pack it up and go home. Well,
um,
should we jump into this? I'm
yeah,
very curious to see what both sides are saying.
yeah. Let me launch it.
Well, first of all, I mean, Bitcoin was created to be a digital currency, but it doesn't really work well as a currency. It's very slow. It's very expensive. There are a lot of other cryptos out there that could do that better, but the problem is most of them are too volatile to really be money, because money needs to be a commodity. It needs to be the most liquid
So
commodity.
sorry. So
Pause.
this just seems to be a clip
we're both getting triggered at the same time.
midstream clip. No, I was just. This was just a. This is a 2-minute clip that
Yeah,
started.
they're all a bunch of little clips.
Oh, there's
Yeah,
no like.
let's just go through the little clips. I think it'll be fine. We'll read the article and go through the clips.
Okay, all right. Arguing in favor of gold were investor Peter Schiff and NYU economist Nouriel Roubini, and then, as I said, Eric Voorhees and Scaramucci, of course, the backstabber who was part of the Trump campaign and then wasn't a couple of years ago, if you recall.
I
Schiff
thought I
made
recognized that name. Okay, yes.
Schiff made the case that Bitcoin cannot be a viable currency because money needs to be a commodity and that Bitcoin has no inherent value. it's not just a unit of account, a medium of exchange. It needs to be a store of value, he added. Bitcoin is more digital gold. Bitcoin is no more digital gold than if I create an image of a hamburger on a computer screen. That's not digital food.
Just the unit
No,
of
hold on. Before
account
you play that,
and
I
medium
want
of exchange. It really needs to be.
to address the commodity thing. I think it's worth pointing this out because for people who haven't heard us talk about economy before, is that we're on the stance firmly that a commodity may be associated with money, like the money could be printed on gold, for example, in Peter Schiff's case here, but money isn't a commodity. And the historical and archaeological and anthropological record bears this out. That civilization, society, has been using gold and silver money since approximately 800 BC, and we have records going back to 3000 BC, Sumeria on clay tablets. We were able to see the records because they happen to be obsessed with keeping track of tax records and wrote them on a tablet made out of stone that was or out of clay that was very, very good for surviving the environmental conditions that they wrote them in. So they're still there for us to read. So they were
Jesus
using
will get
credit
to your
systems.
comments.
What's that?
I was just saying, Jesus will get to your comment in a sec.
Yeah. So credit systems have been used for way longer than precious metals have. So to say that money has to be a commodity, it's just not true. And then you run into this weird, I guess it's kind of like chasing your tail, trying to figure out what the value of money is. Well, it has to be a store of exchange because it has to be a commodity. Well, how does it become money? Well, enough people have to exchange the commodity and value it. Well, where did it get its value to begin with? Well, because enough people trade. You just get this like circular argument where you're just chasing your tail over and over and over again. Where if you recognize, okay, wait a minute, money is simply just a legal concept where the state demands an arbitrary token in taxes, and then issues that token on the other end, where you have to run around and get that token in order to pay your taxes. Then we got something that makes a little bit of sense. So I'm excited as usual to hear Peter Schiff jump up and down about why gold is or should be money because it's a commodity. Nima, did you have any
Be a store of
commentary on that?
Yes, the commodity money is like closely tied with the barter theory of money, and we've discussed many times why that's not necessarily the only way to look at why money was created, how money works. Like as David Graeber describes in Debt the First 5,000 Years, there have been periods where gold was indeed used as money, but the reason was that those were periods of warfare and destruction and chaos. And in those kinds of periods where trust is like non-existent among societal institutions and individuals, gold is kind of the only game in town, the only thing that people trust. And gold can be stolen. That's one of its big features, ironically, is that it can be stolen and melted and recast and then
Put your own stamp on it. Yeah.
and then reused by somebody else without any track record of value. This is also what I think is really important about gold versus crypto. Gold does have qualities that crypto does not have, indeed. So that's why I say, why does it have to be gold or Bitcoin? I have gold and I have Bitcoin. I think both have unique qualities. Bitcoin will never be a chemical element that has the properties of gold. Bitcoin will never be a natural metal that exists. It can exist, sit in my hand without some network existing around it. Now you could say, well, but there has to be people who want that gold, people who know what gold is. Yeah, but there doesn't need to be a global network of computers to facilitate the functioning of gold. You just need to scale and weigh it and all that. So my point has always been gold and crypto each have unique qualities, and it's not one versus the other necessarily. So should I play this thing now?
Yeah, let's go for it.
The problem is most of them are too volatile to really be money, because money needs to be a commodity. It needs to be the most liquid commodity. It's not, just a unit of account.
Okay, just to interrupt there, gold is very volatile as well. So Schiff loses on that point already, right? In the year 1980, an ounce of gold was worth $800, and 20 years later it was worth $200, and 20 years later now it's worth $2,300. So not
It's not as
necessarily.
volatile as Bitcoin, but that's still pretty
Yeah,
volatile. Yeah.
yeah. But Bitcoin has lower liquidity, so of course it's more volatile, right? And there may come a time when its liquidity drops.
And immediate exchange, it really needs to be a store of value. And now Bitcoin is trying to reinvent itself as some digital version of gold by claiming, well, we're not going to be used as money, just like people aren't using gold right now as a medium of exchange or unit of account. They just store it as a safe haven or store of value. So Bitcoin is like that. It's just some digital version of gold. But it's not. I mean, first of all, if anything, it's an anti-gold. I mean, look at today's trading. It was a risk-on day. Everybody bought risk assets, so they bought Bitcoin. They sold gold. It does the opposite. But gold is an actual physical element. It derives its value from its metallic properties that are very unique to gold. You can do things with gold that you can't do with any other metals. It's the most valuable metal on the periodic table. It's the most useful metal.
So, here, I'll do it this way. Yeah, gold does have a very, very unique chemical property, which is it doesn't do damn near anything. the reason
corrosion.
you find gold in nature is because it's one of the, I don't know if it's I think it's the least reactive metal on the periodic table. It's because it's so heavy. I mean, you're not going to build a house out of gold. It's soft. You can't build anything structurally sound out of gold, right? What is Peter Schiff talking about? What is the thing that gold does that makes it that supposedly makes it so valuable? I mean, like, iron. You can make tools and buildings and stuff out of iron, right? There's some, in quotes, intrinsic value there, but what's this thing that gold does? I mean, other than in the modern era, I know, at the monatomic level, they have figured out a way to make it a catalyst. Actually, that's a good point too, is that once we get into the industrial era, a lot of metals start having value from the fact that they're catalysts. Platinum and palladium are two very good examples of this. Like, platinum and palladium can be very expensive, but they get used in the chemical industry because they can be used as catalysts to make new chemicals. Gold doesn't even do that. Like, it's the one metal that's the least good at doing that.
Yeah, so there's a limited industrial use for gold. There's way more for silver, for example.
Yes.
And so, yeah,
He falls flat on that one too. Please continue.
should we comment on Jesus real quick?
Oh, sure.
Okay, so he explains to us, I call it two-party because it's between myself and the other person. So if you buy my house with crypto and I decide I'm not moving out and I'm keeping your crypto that you paid, now what? Well, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna show up with this thing, and the law is on my side. And so what if I
now I'm going to evict you because you're now
right
have unlawful retainer of my property.
What if I send you a wire and you're not moving out of the house? I don't understand this argument at all. Same situation, right?
Well, and then this is what title companies are for, or escrow companies. They're usually the same thing, right? Is that when you buy or sell a house, well, let's say I'm buying a house from Nima, I don't send him money and then he drops me off the keys. We send it to the escrow company, and the escrow company makes sure everything is there and all the rules are being followed before everything gets distributed to the appropriate parties.
Even better yet, you could do this with Bitcoin much more efficiently
Yep.
without having to trust a third party company by doing a multi-sig transaction. Boom. So actually, crypto is even better than the legacy system in that regard. Okay. Uh, let's see what he said next. As for three-party money, me, you, government, you buy my house with dollars, then the sheriff will show up and impose law enforcement to give you the house. Well, so
I think he's confusing the.
that's a matter of legal
Yeah, I think you're
issues.
confusing an Campistan versus government argument with a Bitcoin versus gold discussion.
Sorry, say it again.
So I think Jesus here is confusing. Okay, how would we enforce disagreements, or how would we
Yes.
mitigate disagreements without government? We're not talking about a world
Right.
without government.
Right. So we're just talking about transacting a medium of exchange to facilitate a transaction. Like I said, I could send a wire. You could refuse to move out. Now you're saying, okay, the sheriff will help me if I paid with crypto as well. There's no reason why the sheriff wouldn't help me in that scenario either. If I can prove that I paid the money to the address provided by the buyer, then
And then you have the deed, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
like
And even let's say it
it's
went
not
through.
like he was gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna send you this money. Call me back with an Indian accent when I have the house, right?
Well, yeah, let's say we go through a third-party multi-sig, even better, right? This is something that fiat money cannot do. Crypto can facilitate multi-sig transactions. And he says, I just proved his point with Hatfield and McCoy. So I guess he meant like a standoff situation with,
Yeah.
with Mossberg.
No, but
Well,
like I said,
anyway.
I think Jesus here is getting at, okay, what if there's no government and everything is entirely private, and you give somebody money and they don't do what they said for the money, what are you going to do? I guess that's an interesting question,
There it
but
is.
we're not talking about that. Yeah.
Right. Okay, let's move on. And Jesus, continue to give us your feedback. We appreciate it very much.
Metal. Bitcoin can't do anything that gold can do. I mean, it's no more digital gold than if I create a image of a hamburger on a computer screen. That's not digital food.
Bitcoin can't do anything that gold can't do? Did he just say that?
No. Bitcoin cannot do anything that gold can do.
Oh. Okay.
It may look like food, but it has no substance. I can't eat it. And if I have a diet of digital food, I will starve, right? You can have some things. You can have digital photography because then I still have a photograph. You can have digital music because I can still dance to it or sing along to it. But you can't have digital gold. You can't make jewelry out of it. You can't conduct electricity with it. You can't do anything with Bitcoin that you can do with gold. There's no place in industry where you can substitute Bitcoin for gold. So gold's value is its metallic properties that don't decay over time. Gold doesn't lose its properties. It doesn't, tarnish or degrade. You can leave it for 1,000 years, and you can conduct electricity with it. So when I'm storing my gold, I am storing all the
Sumerians conducted electricity. What is he talking about?
What was it?
Well, his two big things for why gold is valuable, from what I'm understanding here, is the industrial uses are it conducts electricity and it can be used for jewelry. So the reason it was valuable 3,000 years ago is because it conducted electricity.
Yeah, no, that makes no sense. But yeah, no, his point is just that there's utility value to gold in industry and not to Bitcoin. Now, it's true that Bitcoin can't be used as jewelry in that same fashion as gold, and that's fine, right? I don't think anyone said that. But there's industrial uses of Bitcoin. You can create identities on Satoshis. You can create ordinals, certificates. You can create bitmaps for metaverse property. You can create all kinds of things on the Bitcoin blockchain that have utility in the Web3, in the IT, in the internet industry, if you will. Just because it doesn't do the same things as gold doesn't mean that it has no value, right? So I said from the beginning, yeah, there is things that gold can do that Bitcoin cannot, and vice versa. It's like different things for different purposes, right? Like I can use this speaker to listen to music, but I can't use this coffee to listen to music. Does that mean the coffee has no value? I can drink the coffee, but I can't drink my speaker. Does that mean the
Oh, you
speaker
could
has
if you
no
melted
value?
it
I
down.
mean,
Come on, Nima.
what was that?
You could if you melted it down.
Right.
I'm fucking with you.
Yeah. Okay, let's finish this clip here, and then we'll get back.
Future uses of gold. All the whatever gold is going to be used for in the future, I've got that. I'm storing that. But Bitcoin isn't used for anything today, and it's not going to be used for anything tomorrow. I mean, yes, you can sell it to somebody if they're willing to buy it, but that doesn't mean it has any value. It means it has a price. You know, look at Peloton. You know, this week it fell to $2. It was at 170 during COVID. Was it ever worth that? Well, somebody was dumb enough to pay 170, but that doesn't mean it was worth that. There was just a price. But you can't store a price. Price depends on just supply and demand, where people want to buy it. Why do people want to buy Bitcoin? Because they think the price is going to go up. Well, what if they stop thinking the price is going to go up? Then no one's going to want to buy it.
Same thing with gold.
Right. But then no, but people buy gold so they can put it in their teeth, right?
Great.
Oh, there's
Um,
an industrial use. I didn't even think about that one. There you go, Nima.
Yeah, but so yeah, the things he's saying. I mean, Peter Schiff. Honestly, problem with Peter Schiff is that when it comes to Bitcoin, he just. I think his main objective is to trigger people in the crypto industry and say deliberately stupid shit that he doesn't actually believe. And I don't know why he does this, but I mean, his son is big into crypto, right? He's been involved in one way or another in crypto for longer than most crypto people I know today. He was among the first people to start accepting Bitcoin on Shift Gold. He's actually done a pretty early ordinals collection.
Right, so he takes the Bitcoin and he gets rid of the gold.
Right. I mean, he claims that he just cashes it out right away. So, but no, but he did an ordinal scheme, so he understands that there's purposes for Bitcoin beyond just transacting money, such as you can put artwork onto the blockchain for eternity. And he did. He came out with an ordinals collection of him, I think, with a gold bar or something like that. You know, he went on an episode on Ordinals podcast to talk about it. So you have to take what he's saying about crypto with a grain of salt, because also, you know, if you recall, I think like on April 3rd, he said, if you remember, I think we talked about it. He said the Q2 numbers are in. Bitcoin is down 5%, and gold is up 10%, or something like that, right?
No, I think he said the Q3 numbers. No, I think it was Q2, but like Q2 was like 3 days in.
Right, that's what I'm saying, right? April 3rd, he's like the Q2 numbers are in. So that's obviously trolling, right?
Right.
Let's see what else we got here. Does Bitcoin's transferability give it value? Voorhees argued that Bitcoin's ability to seamlessly cross borders, probably to seamlessly transact cross borders, to seamlessly cross borders, right, is an example of inherent value. I can send $1 million to Europe in 5 minutes from my phone. As things heated up, Rubini echoed Senator Elizabeth Warren, suggesting that crypto could be exchanged between a criminal and a terrorist, and that Bitcoin's transferability allows for the subversion of anti-money laundering (AML) and know your customer laws. Yes, that's a feature, not a bug. But Rubini is not going to get that. He blasted Voorhees for being too idealistic. Live in your libertarian cave. That's not the world we live in.
We'll play it. Let's hear it.
And also, I think Rubini has been declaring Bitcoin dead for about 10 years now, and has been wrong for about 10 years. So amazing that he did. Now, we have some more comments here, so we got to get into those.
It was just some jokes. Oh, I guess it was Randall here.
Randall, gold has a lot of industrial value, but it's not utilized for such use case because it's so expensive.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
you could make telephone wires out of gold, and they would be the best telephone wires ever. But you can't afford to do that.
Yeah. It would be great if Bitcoin replaced gold, because then we could use gold for those use cases. Right. The price of gold maybe comes down, and then we can do more things with it. I think that could happen ultimately, but it might actually just it might necessarily be not necessarily be gold coming down, but rising less than it would have without Bitcoin. I think that's already happening. There's $2 trillion in crypto at this point. Gold market cap is maybe $10 trillion. So it's not like they're in different universes anymore. Crypto is becoming that asset, that new asset class that's relevant. What does gold and Peter Schiff's brain have in common? Apparently, you can melt them down. just, you know, just
But is Peter
such
Schiff's
an element.
brain a store of value?
I mean, I think Peter Schiff's actually a pretty smart guy. Like I said, a lot of the stuff he says about crypto, maybe it's to pump his own gold bag or whatever. Got to go, guys, but you guys know I enjoy this channel. Have a great, well, and we enjoy your feedback, Jesus. We shall see you next time. Okay, let's play the next clip.
I want to narrow in on a very specific argument that you're making, which is at the root of your entire tree of belief about Bitcoin, which is that it has no usefulness, no usefulness. I just told you I can send $1 million to Europe in 5 minutes from my phone for like $5. That's useful. Go.
Well, you can send Bitcoin. You can't send dollars. Then somebody can sell the Bitcoin to get dollars. But I could do the same thing with 10,000 other cryptocurrencies. I can send those.
That simply proves that other coins also have value.
But how much is it worth if you can repeat it with so many other?
But can make a point.
One at a time. One at a time. We got four
On
very
the issue
short.
of the 5 minutes, the difference is that banks using SWIFT takes them 2 or 3 days because they do all the ML KYC. The technology of SWIFT would allow you to transfer that $1 million in 5 seconds. Okay, so the reason why you can do Bitcoin because you can have a transfer from a criminal to a terrorist. Nobody's checking it.
All right.
The technology is exactly the same. You don't pay the compliance cost because you don't want to have the regulation.
So
if you had the
Nero-
same
Nero-
compliance cost, it would cost exactly the same. So it's bullshit to say
So Nero,
the
is
technology.
your-
No, like, what Rubini is saying is complete bullshit, of course, because the SWIFT system would not work. It would be a nonsensical system without all these checks and KYC compliance, because you could immediately game the system because it would be such a weak security built into that system. That is the power of the fact that you don't need to have KYC, that you don't need to have compliance checks, that you don't need to have centralized authority. That is a whole feature of Bitcoin. But Rubini is not going to understand this anymore at this stage.
Well,
look
I
at
wanted to add to that too because he flops in the thing. Well, a criminal and a terrorist could exchange.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. And okay, well, let's look at the other extreme. What if we get to the other extreme where your own government doesn't like the words that you're saying, so they cancel you from the financial system, and your only way to continue surviving within your own society that you haven't done anything wrong, you don't have a criminal conviction, no one's accused you of anything, like you just woke up one day and the whole financial system said you can't participate anymore. We're going to ruin your life. Oh, guess what? You can still participate with the crypto system because it doesn't do the things that Rubini says.
Let's look at a completely hypothetical scenario where HSBC Bank funds drug traders. Oh, wait, no, that's not hypothetical. That happened with dollars. Let's look at a completely hypothetical scenario where the U.S. government funds Mexican cartels. Oh, wait, that also. The most popular currency for terrorist transactions is the U.S. dollars. So if you want to make that case about terrorism and all this, then you have to include the dollar as well. This is the oldest, dumbest boomer argument against crypto ever. And of course, Rubini is going to make this argument, right?
You can do
argument.
instantly something.
Oh,
You can do the same thing
sorry.
with any bank
We're allowed to
transfer
curse on
in
this?
2
Because-
seconds.
because-
Come on.
And Nero, is your argument that the reason why a Bitcoin transfer is cheaper and faster than a SWIFT transfer today is because of AML and money laundering?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
Eric, back to you.
Okay, banks
That's
and
the
crypto
difference.
companies, both do AML KYC, both of them, right? So what you said there is just not true. The other thing you said is, which is not true, is that the reason for the delay is because of AML checks. A bank is not spending 3 days doing due diligence on its customer. These are automated systems outsourced to third parties, and I know this because I built one of these companies that actually use those things.
And
The
Rubini-
delay is not due to that. The delay is due to the habit and the practice of delaying payments because there's a float and a fee that banks and financial institutions make during that period of time. The dollar is a virtual currency, and you're correct that there's no reason it couldn't be sent across instantly, but it doesn't work because the whole financial system is just slow and lethargic, and there's been no innovation in it for decades. But to the point earlier, I can send $1 million of Bitcoin in 5 minutes.
But you don't do any KYC when you do that.
You could go to
Well,
somebody
hold-
like
wait, wait,
BitLayer
wait,
and create a
wait,
KYC network.
Let's
Can't you do
talk
that?
KYC. This is like my favorite topic.
AML, you just
Well,
send it.
let Eric respond to the KYC because
This is my favorite topic. Okay. Okay. I'm an American, right? I grew up believing that like an individual has a right to privacy and that I'm a free and sovereign person. Why should I bow down and submit to the surveillance of a central government just to send money to someone? That's what someone would do like in Soviet Russia.
Oh yeah, I agree with you.
but-
I'm not
false.
against
But
these
one
laws,
second, one second,
but
one
you're
second.
saying you don't
One
do
second.
them. But the
One-
banks
one
have to
second.
because the governments will.
We have these rules because there is money laundering, there are terrorists.
You know, like, I just want to point out the awkward nature of Schiff having to debate with Rubini on his side, who believes in nothing that Peter Schiff believes in.
There is human trafficking. There is criminals. There are lots of reasons why
You can tell how he's cringing at Rubini for saying all these stupid ass talking points.
want to make sure that transactions within countries and across countries don't occur for legal reason. No civilized, I know you're against any regulation, you're against government, you're libertarian, but no civilized nation in the world, not advanced economies, no emerging market, no democracy, less autocratic country, don't accept a world in which any terrorist, any Hamas, any Iranian Revolution Guard, like they did with Binance, use Binance to transfer billions of dollars somewhere else.
It's totally not true, by the way. How many times has the US government funded terrorists in the Middle East and all over the world? How many times has CIA weapons and money ended up in the hands of ISIS? Did they not fund the Mujahideen in Afghanistan? Did they not fund Saddam Hussein in Iraq? Did they not then later on fund the insurgencies in Syria and Iraq? I mean, did they not fund death squads down in Chile and other South American countries?
But those are the terrorists that we liked. So it's
Right,
okay.
right. So this is, this thinking relies on the notion that that all the people Rubini likes are good people, and everyone who disagrees with him are bad people. So the power of crypto is that none of this matters. It universalizes the ability to transact money. And people can still call out terrorists if they think they're terrorists and whatnot.
Well, I mean, that's the thing that I wanted to mention was, okay, so all these security features, so-called, in the traditional financial system are there to catch all these criminals and terrorists. Are we unable to catch them
Right.
using the crypto method? Like, at all?
Yeah, and
Would
totally
Bitcoin
not.
miners be uninterested in helping law enforcement catch actual terrorists and criminals?
There's an
And
entire
helping them
industry.
if there's a warrant served?
There's an entire industry of blockchain forensics, and there's a lot you can try and do. It makes it harder to track, to be sure, but that's the whole point of it. That's the feature of it. You have to go back to more traditional, more actual police work to track and trace people. But yeah, Bitcoin is an open ledger, and if bad people do stuff, and enough people talk about it, know about it, and observe, then those people can be caught. Not necessarily just through financial means, but the existing powers that be are so used to having just sitting in front of a screen and seeing everyone's transactions everywhere, and just pushing a button in order to
Yes.
shut
AI,
people
please
down.
show me all of Nima's illegal transactions in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Right. I mean, what's annoys me is when somebody like Rubini talks about these things. He says the word terrorist like it's universally agreed who the terrorists are, right? He says this anti-money laundering as if everyone who's subjected to these things is a money launderer. He says these talking points as if they're true, because maybe he's like so slow that in his mind they really are all, it's that easy. It's black and white. If you've been declared a terrorist by somebody, then so I think he's Iranian. I think he would be a terrorist by Iranian standards, as a critic of the regime. So we could this doesn't get us anywhere. This is like going around in a circle for eternity and throwing accusations at one another.
Friends,
Yeah, but-
you may not like that world. You want to destroy every government. Go and do it. Or live in your libertarian cave.
There we
That's
go.
not the world we live in. Okay,
what-
that's not the world, and no civilization will
way-
accept that. Period.
Yeah.
But
That's not the world we live in. The most detached person in this whole conversation is Nouriel Roubini.
Try to
Like, he literally has no clue what's going on. And he lectures some very innovative entrepreneurs who are creating a new world of crypto, who are, by the way, creating an entirely new decentralized AI system on what world we're living in. Voorhees then gave his best impression.
Institutionalization of instruments, man.
sure.
Go watch our other shows to learn more about that.
For sure.
No, what a perfect example of this is the way the world works, and I'm completely incapable of seeing that it's changing all around me.
Right.
And so I'm going to keep hitting the same button that worked yesterday, wondering why it's not working today.
Did he close it
Perfect
off
example.
by it is what it is, and you just have to accept that, or something like that?
So you did a lot of business work,
I lost
Mr.
the
Cohen.
video now.
Did you do any
Anyway. Voorhees then gave his best impression of Socrates, attempting to dissect Rubini's argument that Bitcoin is not decentralized. Rubini, meanwhile, made the case that Bitcoin mining is controlled by an oligopoly, and that the Gini coefficient of Bitcoin is worse than North Korea, a point he's made in the past, suggesting that Bitcoin contributes to income inequality rather than reducing it.
Currencies.
right,
If you
Eric,
worry about fiat
Can I,
currencies.
can I ask you a question, Narul? Okay.
Yes.
You're right when you say that all these financial assets today are digital,
Yes.
have been. Do you know what makes the digital asset of Bitcoin different from the digital asset of any other thing that you're thinking about? What's the difference?
Supposedly is based on the fact that it is a system that is private, trustless, permissionless, and decentralized and so on. But the reality of it is that if you look and scratch the surface of these things, they're just the opposite, because 99% of all application of corporate DLT or of enterprise blockchain are what? Private, not public, centralized, not decentralized, using trusted
let's keep
validators
this
rather than
discuss-
trustless, and they're permissioned.
Let's
So
keep-
they're a glorified Google Doc system that is based on same permission that nobody would call blockchain.
So that is complete nonsense, because the Bitcoin blockchain is not a Google Doc. The Bitcoin blockchain is an open ledger that's accessible to everyone. Everyone can run a full node. Everyone can inspect the data. So I don't know what he's talking. He said that there's some crypto companies or some Bitcoin companies who have a private Bitcoin blockchain.
Yeah, well,
That's
did
not
they
the
fork
case.
it? In which case, it's good for them, right? Right?
That's not the case. They don't have a private Bitcoin blockchain. When you send a Bitcoin to someone else, it's on an open ledger. It's on an open inspectable ledger, not on a private blockchain. Anyway, let's move on.
keep
Okay,
this discussion-
every application is not
Go
based
ahead.
on what you call a true DLT.
Let's call
That's
this
the
discussion. Let's
reality.
keep this
Let me-
discussion
let me talk-
around.
Let me talk for a second directly with Muriel.
Nima, can you pause it
Okay,
again?
Muriel.
Yeah. So the oligopoly comment. I do want to ask this question to you. Is from the angle of the fact that the number of miners is finite, considering that the cost of mining new Bitcoin has gone up since it's been halved more and more and more. Is there some form of argument to make that we do have something like an oligopoly because here are the miners that are in existence, and they're probably not going to see any new competitors. If they do, they're going to be few and far in between.
Let me just pull up something. Let's look at the hash rate distribution of Bitcoin while I comment on this. So I'm going to share a different screen here for a sec.
Yeah, go for it.
So we have here the distribution of the Bitcoin hash rate among the different mining pools that
Can you
are
zoom in a little? Yeah, there we go.
So you can see here we have Foundry, Ant Pool, Via BTC, and F2 Pool are probably the largest ones. That's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Are those different miners?
Those are mining pools. Okay.
Okay.
So just to be clear, that's 4 big mining pools that are popular. Now, what is a mining pool? Mining pool is a Bitcoin full node that gets computing power from all kinds of different computers around the world. Could be you. You hook up your miner that you run in your basement to Antpool, and you submit computing power to Antpool. And Antpool will pay you pro rata when they solve a block, right? When they depending on which payment model you choose. There's also a model where you get more constant rewards. But basically, the idea is when they solve a block, they earn bitcoins, and then at this point it's 3.125 bitcoins that they earn, and then those bitcoins are split up among the different hash power providers, among the different computing power providers, based on how many hashes they've submitted. In other words, based on how much computing power they've submitted. So it's not really true that you have an oligopoly of miners. You may have an oligopoly of mining pools. Okay. Now, how many miners are within these pools? We don't necessarily know, but it's way more. It's not like one miner submitting to Antpool.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there may be some larger, some smaller entities. So it's a very delicate. I mean, it's a very balanced system, I would say. Now, is it perfectly decentralized where every individual is mining equal shares? No. There are people who invest in large mining facilities who will get more mining profits and more say in adding new blocks to the ledger than others. But let's say but their income comes from fees, right? So when you point your GPU at Antpool, Antpool will take about a 1% fee from you. I think actually 2.5, some of them even. I think 2.5 seems to be the standard fee, kind of. I looked it up recently. So if anyone finds out that this pool does any funny business, they're gone tomorrow. They will all point their hashing power at Via BTC, at Foundry, at F2 Pool, at Binance Pool, at Unknown, at Marapool, wherever they want. So the pools are extremely limited in manipulating the blockchain. Now, let's say a pool tries to add a block that's not consistent with the Bitcoin protocol, then that pool will not get added because the nodes running the official Bitcoin protocol software or running a software that follows the Bitcoin protocol won't add that pool, won't add that block to the blockchain. So, also, what do you get out of it, right? So you have you do one stupid attempt at mine after investing billions or millions of dollars into a mining farm and spending millions and millions on electricity. You try to manipulate a transaction so you can cheat a
Get a
merchant.
couple extra Bitcoin.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can cheat a merchant out of a flat screen TV or something like that. You send them bitcoins, and then haha, it wasn't actually. Uh, um, I'm double spending those bitcoins in the real block that I'm approving now, and I got a flat screen TV for millions and millions of dollars. And by the way, the system moves on, right? It's going to continue working. Somebody may have double spent, and that's it. So the incentives are incredibly skewed against messing with the system. Even if you try, it's not like it's going to break the system. It would probably cause some. If somebody were to manage, if some pool were to manage to double spend, right, the pool would be gone. Of course, nobody would be wanting to work with that pool anymore. But even if they did, what did they get out of it? How much did they spend? I guess this would be a way to bankrupt people trying to break the system, right? So it's nothing nothing skewed or wrong with that whole incentive structure.
Good. No, I think you made your point.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of thing where you would say, "Oh, but it's not perfect." Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So what?
Yeah. Oh, but the banking system that you support is perfect, right?
Yeah. Well, and then perfection was perfection ever one of the claims?
No,
Well,
I mean,
maybe
but
some people were saying it, but I mean, was anybody seriously saying, "Hey, here's the perfect new system that solves all problems for eternity"?
right. So there's as soon as there's some little things like, oh wow, you have like only 4 big pools here, that looks bad. Rubini picks it up and makes it a talking point. But does he really care? Is it really you really care about the centralization issue of mining in the Bitcoin world? Because there are people who care about
Well,
this.
does he even understand this?
Right. There
What you're
are
saying,
people
or yeah,
who have submitted solutions as well. For example, the hash rate routing, which David Johnson talks about. It's called a Lumerin model of hash rate routing because people figured that deciding how hash rate gets submitted from the individual hardware miner in your basement to the pool, that is a little too centralized. Great. So somebody came up with a protocol that decentralizes it more. I think it's actually quite
to that point,
remarkable how
innovation is kind of built into this, right? Like, here's this problem now. Okay, let's get together and fix it.
yeah,
Right?
yeah, or you're Rubini. Let's get together and bitch about it
Right.
and call it a victory. I mean, it's actually quite remarkable that I want to say the Bitcoin hash rate. Even if I pretend like these pools are individual entities with a lot of power, which they're not. Okay, let's say we pretend that's the case. I think Bitcoin mining today is even less centralized than it was in the earlier days. Because in the earlier days, there were some pools that at times got kind of close to 50% of the hashing power.
Mm-hmm.
But then the thing is, the Bitcoin community is so paranoid about anyone approaching 50% hashing power. Individuals will just pull their miners, point them at a different pool, right? There's solutions to these problems, very easy solutions. It's not like Rubini, oh my God, oligopoly, it's centralized mining, 99%, blah, blah, blah. Just talking points. All right,
Well, let's hear some more of his talking points. Get that screen
let's hear some more
shared back up here.
from Rubini. The a non-terrorist, of course, the good guy.
I don't want to talk about all these other like blockchain things or private blockchains or all that nonsense. There's a lot of nonsense. I just want to talk about Bitcoin. You said it very well. You said it very succinctly. The difference with Bitcoin is that it is scarce, immutable, decentralized, right? How can you make a statement like that and then in the very next breath not understand that that might have some value?
First of all, you remember Victor Buterin's inconsistent trinity principle that says in anything crypto, you cannot have at the same time something is scalable, secure, and decentralized.
The blockchain, the
traditional
blockchain
financial
trilemma.
system, wait a moment. Traditional financial systems are secure. Even if somebody steals my bank account or my credit card, in 60 seconds I block it and might fully hold. In Bitcoin or crypto, if somebody steals your private key, your money is gone forever and ever. So it's not secure. Secondly, it's not scalable. In the traditional financial system, there's massive scalability. Yes, we have a centralized system, but we get 2 out of 3. Take Bitcoin. First of all, it's not secure, literally. People have to put it in a cold wallet down the ground. It's like taking gold and putting it in the ground, never using it.
Wait, but that's
First of all,
that's secure.
second point, is not scalable, and it's not even decentralized. You know, centralization of all the miners is an oligopoly, many of them in places there is no rule of law, Belarus, China, Russia, and these kind of rogue states.
Oh, which one is it? So it's an oligopoly. The mining is centralized. Many of the miners are in places where there's no rules. Isn't that
Like
decentralized?
Russia. There's no rules in Russia, Nima.
But isn't that decentralized? If there's no rules and they're all over the place and there can be whatever they want, isn't that exactly what you want in a
Right, well,
decentralized
and then, I mean,
system?
the one
Where
point
it
he did
doesn't
make.
matter what country you're in. Isn't that the whole point of decentralization?
Yes. Well, and then I guess he's also missing the fact that even if it's in a different country, like the whole system is set up that you can't change it by yourself. You can put it in whatever country you want. It doesn't change the way that the mining happens and the way that we exchange Bitcoin and transfer
It's a
Bitcoin.
feature, not a bug. So if a
Yeah.
country becomes adversary to crypto, then the crypto community can pack up and go
Expand.
somewhere else. That is a feature. That's the same thing we talked about with AI right now. David Johnston on a discussion with him. The US is coming up with all these idiotic AI laws where you now need a driver's license, a passport to be able to do computational math. The AI community will open source it and go to a country or to a place where the
don't
environment
do
is
that.
friendly towards them, and that
Yeah.
place will flourish.
Secondly, you have monopoly of concentration of the wealth. The Gini coefficient of Bitcoin is worse than North Korea, where Kim Jong-un and his family own everything. You have a centralization of developers. When something goes wrong,
Okay, should we look up?
I don't
this-
even know what the Gini coefficient is. I'll look it up. Keep playing.
Well, I was wondering if we should look it up just to see. The Gini index is a summary measure of income inequality. Okay.
Oh, so
that's a measure of a country. Bitcoin is not a country. So Bitcoin is like, I mean, does gold have a Gini coefficient? Is Rubini here trying to? I thought this was a gold versus Bitcoin debate. Anyway.
right. Anyway, keep playing.
is not immutable, as you saw with the DAO. They reverse the transactions, right?
I'm talking about Bitcoin.
And then it's centralized because the guys who are part of it are prosecuted.
So Rubini says something that's false and then just continues talking.
Yeah, well, that's why it's at the high level of the government.
As you saw with the DAO, they reverse the
Oh, so the DAO. So now he's talking about Ethereum. He's saying, as you saw with the DAO, the Bitcoin transactions are reversible. And then Voorhees says that wasn't Bitcoin. And then Rubini just keeps talking.
Like, just ignores him.
family
Yeah.
on everything. You have a centralization of developers. When something goes wrong, it's not immutable, as you saw with the DAO. They reverse the transactions, right?
I'm talking about Bitcoin.
And then it's centralized because the guys who are part of it are prosecutor, judge, police, and everything. If there's something wrong, they're gonna decide
but
how to
I think
change
there's
it.
a lot
So
of-
this idea, this decentralized, is nonsense.
Well,
it's neither
let's-
decentralized
let's-
nor secure
no.
nor scalable. It's 3 no's out of 3. Well, at least in the traditional one, you get 2 out of 3 right.
Okay, Noel.
Let's dive in a little more on this point. Okay, you made a claim now, a new claim that Bitcoin is not decentralized. Decentralization is obviously a spectrum, right? It's not an off and on thing. You say it's not decentralized compared to what?
You have a system of miners, for example, that is totally
No, you
oligopolistic.
asked the question. Compared to what? When you say Bitcoin is not decentralized, as compared to what?
No, the centralized system will be a system in which there is real competition between, for example, miners, in which the wealth is not concentrated.
What was
Right. This is an it's not perfect argument.
that? And now
Right.
you
It's
notice
not
how he's
decentralized.
squirming.
Compared to what? I can't answer that question. Let me go back to explaining.
So they're asking him now, what is decentralized? And now he's like squirming to say that it is actually something like Bitcoin, probably. Let's
No, the centralized system will be a system in which there is real competition between, for example,
Bitcoin.
miners, in which the wealth is not concentrated,
Bitcoin.
in which you don't have a bunch of rock states who are controlling a lot of the supply and the validation.
now you're
One in
claim-
which the developers are not controlling everything. Those are the criteria for something truly decentralized.
Are you now claiming that
So decentralized system is something where there's competition among the miners. Check that exists in Bitcoin. There's fierce competition among miners, and miners have to operate within very low margins of profit and flexibility to do what it takes to secure the network. He said, well, there's not a huge concentration of wealth. That's a function of a country or a society. That's not a function of a cryptocurrency. Now, as I just said, there are a few mining pools. We just looked at the chart, right? There's a few mining pools which have a larger hash power than others, yet there's no pool that controls the majority of the hashing power, or controls a powerful majority of the hashing power, so to where they can manipulate the system. And even within the pools, there's tons and tons of miners submitting compute power to that pool.
You know what this is, Nima? This what the
It's
hell is
bullshit.
this guy's name? Yeah, I know that, but what's his name? Scaramucci.
Scaramucci
Rubini,
hasn't
sorry.
even talked
Scaramucci's the
yet.
other guy. Yeah,
This is
I'm sorry.
Eric Voorhees.
Rubini is like, this is something that you take for exercises in a formal logic class. Like, let's go over all the formal fallacies that this guy's committing at 60 miles an hour. Right? I mean, you just throw him off, and he's also a perfect example of, I mean, if you've listened to my intellectual self-defense presentations, is that when you call somebody out on their bullshit, if they're really good, they don't care. They just don't care. They just keep
They're like-
going, right?
Yeah, it's like you saw with the DAO, and then Eric Voorhees was like, "I'm talking about Bitcoin," but yeah, okay, but you saw with the DAO, and then he just continues.
Yeah, it just
doesn't even register.
care about any.
It doesn't
A,
register.
he doesn't care, and first, it doesn't
that
seem
you're
to matter.
talking shit, that you're talking complete crap.
It doesn't matter because he still has the floor.
Right.
rogue states control Bitcoin mining?
For a long time they did, and they certainly controlled
What do you base that on?
lots of.
What do you base that on?
For a long time, most of the miners were in Russia, in Belarus, in China, and other countries like that.
For a long time, most of the miners were in China, and as soon as they banned it, they all disappeared. I think that proves that China doesn't control mining.
I mean, today,
Mic drop. I mean, that's exactly the point, right?
Well, and then he
The
said,
miners can be all over the
rogue
world.
nations controlled this, and then it was people in those nations. So was it the nation or the people in the nation? Like,
So the fact that there's miners in places where you can't get to them, you can't shut them down, is a mark of decentralization. Centralization would mean that you can shut it down easily. Being all over the world, nobody can shut it down. That's the point of decentralization. So as far as the point and the purpose of decentralization, Bitcoin is fulfilling that. On the one topic the panelists agreed on, inflation is crushing the working class. According to Schiff,
hey Nima, before we keep going, I do want to finish this, but I got to run.
well, there's one video left. So
One video left. Let's do it. Okay.
According to Schiff, there's only one source of inflation, and that's government. Well, let's see. Oh, sorry. One sec. I'll turn it up.
And I would never dishonor my dad by telling him, you guys, I grew up. I would never dishonor my dad by telling him, and I would never dishonor my dad by telling him, you guys, I grew up poor. I didn't. Grew up solidly in the middle class. However, when you inflate or debase the currency, you destroy these people because they can't catch up. You know, if Peter owns a house or I own a house, the asset will go up nominally with the fiat currency. But your labor is getting stolen from you if you don't own anything. So the $1,000 comes in. Let's say the $1,000 came in January of 2020. It's worth $760 today. Okay, just, you know, if you don't believe me, go look it up on the internet. We lost 25% of the value of the US dollar in 4 years. So maybe my house went up nominally, I'm protected. Maybe my stock account went up nominally, I'm protected. But these lower and middle income people that are relying on labor, they're getting absolutely destroyed. I grew up in a blue collar, aspirational, middle class family that believed in the American dream. There's 20 to 25% of the people in this country right now that are blue collar desperational. We took them from aspirational to desperational in 35 years. Now, I believe it's fixable. And I believe that we can repair this, okay, but it would require the right type of political leadership. Both sides, this is an indictment of both parties, both sides have said, no, we don't want to fix it. No fixing of the entitlements, no fixing of the defense budget, no fixing or right sizing
So wait,
of the
would you fix
corporate
it? If
income balance.
if I gave you the job, and I know
Yeah.
you're gunning for the job, but if I gave you
I'm
the
not,
job,
no, I don't, please.
If I gave you the job, how would
it
you fix
lasted
it?
11 days in Washington. When I go into Washington, I break out in hives. I'm not looking for any job.
Make a point.
I like my job, but I can tell you how to fix it if you want to know. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's not that we lost that purchasing power. It was taken. The government took it. It's not like it just, inflation is just a tax.
Tell me why you
right?
say the government
No,
took
because, well, the government creates inflation. The government spends money that doesn't collect in taxes.
Politicians.
And that's inflation. So when you talk about how the middle class or the people are suffering, it's because the government took their purchasing power and spent it because they didn't
you
have
could
the...
argue-
Peter
you
is
could
right about
argue-
this. It's a form of
No, but
taxation.
the government-
Inflation is a form of regressive
government-
taxation.
Yeah, the government didn't have the guts to raise taxes honestly, so they did it dishonestly through inflation.
Peter's
so you
right
have
about
to
this.
blame government for the problem. There's only one source of inflation, and that's government.
And I would never just.
One source of inflation, Nemo.
Yeah,
of
did you
course.
know that?
Well,
usually
if we're
privately
defining inflation as the supply of money increasing, then that is true.
Right.
But that's
Right.
not a useful definition.
It's useless for an investor. So yeah, that's money supply mostly goes up all the time. So it's kind of useless. We have some more comments here if we
Yeah.
can.
Finding the money. What are you talking
Bitcoin.
about, Randall?
So Randall, Bitcoin is the first truly public money. By public, I mean simultaneously owned by everyone and no one.
I get his point. With most of the resources deemed public are actually owned and controlled by the government. I see his point where it's public because the government, which is supposedly public but not, actually owns and controls things that are usually public, but Bitcoin is not because everybody can access it without having to go through the government.
Well,
I think is
it's
what he's saying.
truly public money in the sense that the ledger is public, and it's also the first truly private money in the sense that the only way to move that money is your private key that only you own, hopefully, that you don't share with anyone. So yeah, it's public where we want it to be, right? It's public for transparency, and it's private for the security and for the ownership. So it has
And then
aspects of both worlds, yeah.
Yeah. And then Randall says, I know you're ending soon. Yes. I look forward to your commentary on finding the money. What's
Look forward
that?
to your commentary on finding the money. I know you're ending soon. I look forward to your commentary on finding the money.
We don't know what you're talking about, Randall.
Help us out. What's the commentary on finding the money? Maybe he said something about that earlier.
Scroll up. No.
Look forward to your
Well,
comment.
Randall, we got to end it here anyway, so email us because if there's a show that we said we're going to do and we forgot, I guess we should know.
Or maybe like, is there money that I can find somewhere? I mean, let me know. You know, I'm always down for some extra cash.
Yeah.
If there's money lying around somewhere, I'm all ears.
Final comment on first shift and then the whole thing. This is totally not a debate. This was like four guys shouting in the void, sometimes vaguely on the same plane.
Well, and also like I didn't hear Rubini make a single case for gold.
Yeah, well, and then Rubini was just kind of like this complete outlier. I mean, he did not belong in that discussion whatsoever.
No, he's just talked trash about Bitcoin a lot here and there, and he's predicted its downfall many times, and he's been wrong the whole time. So I guess, you know, as a Bitcoin opponent, they had to have him on.
Oh, there's an MMT documentary.
Okay. Oh, is that the
called
one?
Finding. Oh, that's the one Stephanie Kelton came out
Yeah.
with, isn't it? Yeah, I got to add that to my
Yeah, I'll check it out for sure.
shit to watch. Yes. Okay. Well, I really do indeed have to run. I've got a bunch of kids at home that are going to crawl all over me as soon as I get home. So this has been Dylan Moore and Nima Majur of Irida TV, which you can find at irida.tv. Check it out. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks, everybody.